naman di ka, di na lang kapapasok requirements. Basta, naana na lang ang tanan.
Yan, at kung ano yung paglaglag na kuswaya na ko, kaya wala pa niya, maglata sa kisami pa, kaya parang makipangutang mga akong wire.
Lynn's right to it. Week 14, week 1 of 2023. Okay, so Lynn's going to get these guys started, and our objectives today is to finish that CR. Michael's got to get the electrical started, start pulling those overhead wires. He says he's waiting for the ceiling, and I went, go pound sand. We're not going to be finishing the ceiling this year. We've already talked to you about that. So he's going to get at that electrical, get these things all hung, and get that door hung. Joseph will get working on that. EMOC and the guys are going to finish between the beam and the AAC, because that's worked out really well, guys, really well. EMOC will then start doing the putty around the windows before we inlay the windows. And then once the windows are inlaid, we'll silicone all the way around, and then the guys can get at the putty. So we've got two goals as far as the putty goes. Right now I want that AAC finished. As we get guys freeing up, they will start rolling the house with the water sealant, get that finished, and then Lynn has to start making decisions now on paint colors and stuff like that, because I want these darn drains put in place. You know, 5 o'clock in the morning, we're out here. Yesterday it was brutally just pounding down with rain, and so we had to reconnect a couple of the drains and get them off shooting past the property, etc. Okay, well, we were hoping to get done by the 15th, but we lost 3 days. So I guess the 15th is going to have to move. That date won't be possible. Is it lawless in the Philippines? Well, it's not. Might not be enforced, but this is where foreigners get in trouble. This is where we get in trouble. Now, this hasn't happened to us yet. Operative word, yet. But so many of my friends have already experienced this, and that is the law tends to get applied to foreigners because we run around and see all the people zigzagging through traffic. We see people, you know, yelling at other people and all of this type of stuff. But that makes you a target if you start conducting yourself that way, guys. You do. We have seen that more than a few times in Angeles when we were living there. Again, Angeles is, it's a unique city, guys. So, but I still say that is got to be one of your primary locations as far as merging yourself into the Philippines so that you have some expats to connect with and learn from. But the lawless part is simply this. If they have a chance to pull over a Filipino who is riding a motorcycle and all they can do is check their papers, they might get, maybe they get 20 pesos out of them, you know, for zigzagging and all of this stuff. And most of the time, all they're doing is checking paperwork. I've even seen many occasions where they've got a checkpoint up and all the Filipinos get stopped. And as soon as they see a foreigner, they just assume that you've got all your paperwork in order and you keep going. And that's where you can get in trouble if you don't have your paperwork and they feel like pulling everybody over. Cars, same thing. If they see an opportunity here to invoke a fine, trust me, this gets in the way and they all think that we're rich. They do. And especially when the people of power think that they might be able to initiate a fee for for being lawless in the Philippines. Now you have to remember that many of these laws are already in place. So take, for example, I have talked to people and it appears that they do have noise bylaws here. There's no bloody way they're ever going to enforce them because the police are just as involved with the big parties, and many times I'll bet you they own the monster boombox videoke machine. Now, I'm not poo-pooing videoke, okay? We've got one right over here, doesn't bother me in the least. It's when they go to excess, and that happens more than you would like to understand. So if you're looking at provincial, just to digress a little bit, understand that in the provincial areas, you're more likely to have these massive boom boxes versus in the city, because they may get more than a few phone calls about the noise if you're in the city, okay? But you got to remember too that if there's a grand opening for a business, or every time we go into DIY, it's to the max, guys. There's a number 10 on there. They're at number 10. So even though they may have noise bylaws, it's not going to get enforced. It's just not going to be enforced. So think about some of these things when you're popping around doing this and that, and maybe you see foreigners emulating what the Filipinos do. The Fortuner, which the oligarch has. The police don't pull over the oligarchs here, guys. They are nervous about the oligarchs. They figure they're going to lose their job. But if they're doing a random pullover where, as soon as the window goes down, if we've seen it, they see the Filipino, they see the haircut, boom, they just sir, and they let them go. If it's you behind the wheel, that might be a totally different ball game, okay? They know that you're not a diplomat. They know that you're not in politics. They know that you don't run with any power. Just saying. I'm just saying. Be careful. It may feel lawless in the Philippines. It may feel like you've got a lot more freedom. Freedom is an illusion, guys. It's an illusion, because I know a lot of us bellyache about our West and say that we're losing our freedoms. Come to the Philippines. It's just not the same, guys. Not the same. You may feel that freedom to do this and that, but then when you want to use your rights, not to have the boom box music, to have more structure on the roads. Good luck. Okay, let's get back to the house build. Okay. At the end of the day, Lynn and I have to scoot out of here quite quickly, and it's going to be dark when we get back. So here we go. We've got the CR wall finished. Victor's just putting the final piece in there. And as you can see, there's a little slot up near his hand there. And they're going to run a piece of rebar through on the top and then weld that to the miniature postie that we're putting in for the steel door. So the secondary wall is already going up similarly. And let's see here. Yes, the header is in and we're at full height. So we've just got to do, sorry guys, just got to do that top little section there and we're done. So I've just had Michael, he's going to murder me. Okay, so guys, here's what's happening. And I think maybe I get where they're coming from here, but I refuse to have any boxes up inside my ceiling. So the compromise that Michael and I have come to is that we are going to put a 4x4 box in the wall, but exposed to the room. Then we will just find a nice cover plate and put it over top. It's not like Canada with 110 where you've got your neutral and your hot, okay? It's not quite the same. They tend to run a hot and then use that hot all over the place. Anyway, so no junction boxes in the ceiling. So we had suggested that we put in a series of home runs and put it back into here, but at the end of the day, our compromise isn't going to break the bank, mentally or physically, and that makes the access to the wires. Now, the reason I'm doing this, guys, the reason I'm being anal retentive about not having boxes in the ceiling, back when we were living in Anglaise, one of our friends was living in a condo and a wire did disconnect, okay? And all they knew is that from here to here, it was disconnected somewhere, and they had to find like a 12-year-old kid to go up inside there. Now I'm joking, it wasn't a 12-year-old, but that size of electrician to slam up in there and get that resolved. So not so easy, because they do not use morettes here. They don't use Wagos. It's still all twisting the wire together and then just tape, which we know is not necessarily doing the job, especially if you have a slight earthquake or something along those lines. So the guys are beginning to putty all the ends of the walls, so that when we get going, we can go crazy on the faces, because these will already be done. Now this one here is going to need a little bit extra on it, because there won't be the door frame that we will put in here. Remember, we're putting in sliding doors here, so there won't be a physical swing door in there. We may find ourselves in a little bit of trouble with this door, and we are going to look at some alternatives. We already have the slider, and this one also is going to have a slider. I'm not a big fan of hinge doors, because to me, they just take up space. Or you get, like we're going to put a desk behind there, so if we had the door swinging that way, we would kill the person behind the door every time. Okay, now I'm going to do a This Old Carcass episode, and tomorrow, I'm going to do it in a few minutes here, but it'll upload tomorrow. It's about your privacy, guys. What do you disclose? And it's a subject that is quite, how shall I say, needs to be talked about. Needs to be talked about, especially if you're new coming here, and maybe if you're not new, but maybe you're just still making, in my opinion, some mistakes. So if you agree with me, let's find out if you agree with me or not. Okay, that's a wrap for today. We've got a nice little CR ready to go. Yippee! Oh, this would be more than a comfortable size, guys. It looks very small, because we're so used to these 5 foot by 8 foot washrooms, right? Okay, that's it. Later, Gators.